Welcome to June. Meteorological summer is here. The sun's out for many Canadians, and meteorologist Dr. Doug Gillham is sitting beside me. So, Doug, it's going to be a good weekend, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, any summer and the weekend, I think it's a good weekend, even if it does rain.
No, totally. Now, we released our summer forecast earlier this week. Doug, you're the brains behind that summer forecast. You kind of sign off on it and say, okay, publish this. This is what Canada's going to get, right?
Well, I'm always looking at the next season and beyond. So this is the end of a lot of work. I shouldn't tell people I'm already looking ahead to the colder season later on. But let's talk about summer.
We're not talking about that right now. But let's talk about transition, though, because, Doug, we are ending El Nino. We're going into La Nina. What kind of markers will that put on the season?
Well, we've seen a number of summers where the focus of the heat has been in the west. And during a La Nina summer, the heat generally is there. But the key is that we're in a transition. And when we look back at years where we've gone from El Nino, or especially strong El Nino, and a quick flip to La Nina, the focus of the heat is pretty widespread, but it's central in eastern Canada. Western Canada gets a break, where temperatures can even tip cooler than normal, although we're expecting more of a typical summer with less persistent and extreme heat.
Okay, so let's take a look at that national picture right across the country. Doug, this is what you've drawn up for Canadians. Let's talk about these temperatures.
We see a lot of red on that map. We do expect a lot of Canada will see a very warm to a hot summer. But again, the focus of that has shifted east. The one place that kind of stands out for not seeing exceptional heat, that's the west, where we do expect more of a typical summer. That will still include some hot weather, though.
Let's talk temperatures. You know, a hot summer, okay, that's not really a huge headline, but the heat could be persistent this year.
Yes, it really could. This year we're really focused on central and into eastern Canada. The focus of the heat for the past few summers has been western Canada. Get a bit of a break this year. I mean, they will see hot weather, but not as persistent, not as severe, but it is a different story further to the east.
Now, when we look at the east, the heat dome really has been a big feature in our summer forecast. First, what is a heat dome?
Well, it's this area of sinking air, and as the name implies, it's hot. So that's the focus of the hottest weather, and with the sinking air, you get an abundance of sunshine. That might sound like good news, but it's dry, and with the hot, dry weather, drought becomes a problem. You get these extended periods of heat, your heat waves, and your drought. Okay,
so when we think about this heat dome, mainly centered in the U.S., but it has the potential to move.
Right. The heat domes tend to, they move around, they expand, they contract, and while it will be centered on the U.S. Midwest, at times that will expand north into the Great Lakes region, shift east, and impacts southern Ontario, possibly even southern Quebec. So you won't be under it all summer, but that's where we have a heightened risk for heat waves this summer. At times you will feel the effects of the heat dome, even though it's not centered right on top of you.
And of course, poor air quality comes with that too. Yes. Smog, we often see that in provinces like Quebec. So that's going to be a big feature that we will watch as we go into especially July and August. And Doug, this heat dome around the perimeter of it, that could be a zone that could really spark up some big intense thunderstorms.
Right. They often call it the ring of fire. You can get day after day organized complexes of thunderstorms that go around the edge of the heat dome. And what that does is give you very close proximity of places that are experiencing drought because they miss the rain day after day, and then the places that get strong severe storms day after day. So you can have places that have an excess of rain very close to places that desperately need rain. So the question is, are you under the dome? Are you under the training storms and with a much more active pattern? Now that will shift around some during the summer, but that's why, like southern Ontario, we expect near normal precipitation. We'll have extended periods where we desperately need rain, and then periods where it's very active.
It could be overwhelming.
Yes.
Okay, Doug, let's switch gears into hurricane season. You know, talking about storms, talking about heat. We have been seeing so many headlines that say the Atlantic is on fire. This is going to be an intense hurricane season. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've been talking about this for months, and now it seems like everyone's talking about it. We do expect it to be a hyperactive season. A lot of variables there. It's not just the warm ocean water temperatures. We've had that before. But with the rapidly developing La Nina conditions, what that gives us is a much more favorable environment, an environment more conducive for intensification of storms. That gives us less wind shear in the Atlantic. Also, a much quieter typhoon season in the western Pacific. So a lot of the triggers for storms won't develop in the Pacific. They will cross the Asian continent, cross India. There'll be a lot more triggers coming out into the Atlantic because we're not getting the storms in the Pacific. So three variables: the triggers, the warm ocean, the lack of wind shear. Everything's pointing to a very active season.